Hello, world. This is the Know Your Place podcast. I'm your host, Charles Altendorf, and we're on episode 56. On this week's episode, I thought I'd like to take a minute and sort of talk about what I feel are Italian cultural references. I don't know what really inspired for me to do it this week, but I just felt like talking about some. Um, when I think of my first real introduction into Italian culture was when I was a kid. I watched the movie The Godfather, and that movie is quite the movie because while it does, I mean, some people say it glorifies mob life. Uh, it gives you really interesting cultural glimpses. Like for me, I can't remove the wedding scene, from Italian culture. Like, there's got to be all the family there and all these different food, and they're singing songs and whatever, And I can't remove the imagery of Sicily they showed in the movie, especially in the first episode when Michael goes there. It's just something that can't be removed. It can't unsee it that way. And I don't know if that's a misconceived notion, but I feel like it's not, because based upon my personal experience in America, I think Italians, especially when they came here, I don't know what they're like in other countries where they've immigrated, but here, almost every Italian American I've met, especially first generation ones, they absolutely are proud of being seen as Italian Americans. They absolutely don't care if they seem like a character. If you get my drift, Whereas perhaps um, there was a time when German Americans were a little embarrassed to be seen as German Americans. Irish were too. I don't get that vibe at all from Italians. I think they very much still retain their roots and are proud of their roots, and it's cool. It's absolutely cool. It's very exciting. I love going out to Italian restaurants and ones that seem more authentic. Although I will say what's authentic and what's not. I have no idea. I don't claim to be an expert. Won't claim to be an expert. But I love all the different dishes and the cheese and the noodles and the and their desserts. It's amazing. I do believe they have the best European cuisine. And I had a friend, one of my coworkers, former coworkers. He had an Italian grandmother who lived in Genoa. I was so stinking jealous. I was like, I have got to go there. I've got to try her cooking. I would, I mean, it's a good thing I don't live over there because I'd be fat. But anyway, beyond that, so my exposure to that was in the movies. There also was that movie, The Italian Job, which is kind of lame, but kind of gives you more of another glimpse into Italy a little bit. And then we sort of obviously everybody still talks about the Roman Empire, but that's sort of defunct. But so when I think of Italians, I think of it summarized best as that scene in The Godfather where Michael and his bodyguards go stop after a long day of walking, and they sit to have lunch somewhere, and the bodyguards are commenting about how this one girl looked at Michael, and she gave him the look, and they're going to be soulmates or something, and then the owner of the place turns around and starts yelling at his daughter in the back, and the guy's like, we better get out of here, he's going to be mad. That that's what I think of. Italians are, they do have a little bit of a rough side to them, a little intense, but they are absolutely gracious too, because later on in the movie, they're bending over backwards to make Michael feel comfortable. I They have just the best hospitality. I cannot say that enough. I mean, everywhere I've eaten, every time I've hung out with somebody that's Italian, I've just felt like they've bent over backwards to make me feel welcome. And that's really nice. It's something that's kind of lacking today. In some ways, Italian culture doesn't fit very well into modern times. It's because and I think this goes back to sort of the merchant tradition of Italy, of the Renaissance era, and how they, to make part of the way you make money is by making people feel comfortable and wanting to buy from you. So, being heavily dominated by a merchant trade, Italians, that's how they generally lean, I think, is to serve and to, just make you feel overly welcome and just impress you with very outward sides of neat and opulence, perhaps even when they're struggling with things going on, And but the other thing that you have to understand is they are crazy over the top. There's no way else to put it, and no one epitomizes that more than often elected Berlusconi. Often elected, finally barred from running Berlusconi. I watched John Oliver's Last Week Tonight episode on Berlusconi the other day, and well, it was on the Italian election, and they talked about Berlusconi and all of his crazy dealings, where he's hitting on, the wives of people who work for him in soccer, holding a baby lamb, having all these crazy private parties, having a volcano built at his house. That I, I won't be too insulting here, but that is definitely what I would consider an Italian stereotype. It doesn't scream more Italy than Berlusconi, and I hope that doesn't get me a bunch of negative comments. But just be proud to be you. You do you, Italy. You do you. I absolutely love you, Italy. You're such a weird cluster that just is amazing. I don't ever want to see your culture die. And unfortunately, Italy's culture is struggling a bit. From what I understand, their birth rate is one of the lowest in Europe, and they're dealing with lots of migrant problems. And I just want to say, it's important we retain Italian culture. It really is. It's they, especially their food tradition and their merchant tradition and their gifts to mercantilism. We cannot I cannot downplay enough how important I find Italian culture. Let's see other things that I'm, when I think of it, I think of slow music with accordions, or you know, just very serenadist music. Stuff you do to try and try try and be soft on the ladies. It's and then Italian women. Let me tell you, they are excellent cooks, very strong women. Every Italian woman I've met's been a very strong woman. It's very I very much admire their culture. It's really a pity to me that they're just I think part of the problem with Italy is its terrain kind of inhibits it from being more of a country than a more prosperous country, and it's really a shame because it's like I said, the people are just so amazing. They're just there's something to really behold. Um, let's see what else was I exposed to with Italian culture when I was a kid. Just sort of absurd things like Sinatra, and sort of again, this is all sort of roped into Italian Americanism, and I understand there is a difference. But what I love about it is the Italian Americanism. They're just proud of it. They're not sad that we see them that way. Most Italians I've met, and that's really cool. That's what America and Italy should be about. Um, so yeah, let's see other things. Obviously when I obviously well, if we're talking about the ladies again, and sort of Italians are sort of a romantic culture. No one epitomizes that more than Casanova. Yes, I watched a documentary on Casanova, and I was not disappointed. Who knows how much of what he said was true or untrue, but it doesn't surprise me at all that the guy known to be this crazy lover, crazy sort of seducer of women, is Italian. It just doesn't. Again, the over the topness. If I sort of said that Germans were very over the top. Italians are perhaps even more so over the top. It's just like every Italian that is famous is just very, very famous. And let's see, there's also another Italian cultural reference I was exposed to. Obviously, I read the first book. I'm still waiting for more translations to come out or find more copies of this book. from Giorgio Serbenko, and it was a noir, crime solving novel, and it's part of what he called the Milan Quartet. And the setting in Milan is just, they're all the time in the hot city square trying to escape the heat, and he's trying to help this alcoholic kick his addiction. They're always going out to the countryside, finding some countryside bar and drinking, and then going somewhere else. And he's trying to hunt down these people who are trying to, I guess some ways kind of there's they're trying to manipulate or get in charge of prostitutes, and it's quite a wild book. It was really a great read. And this is Italy. This is what Italy is. It's just it's extremeness. It's constant running around, trying to escape the heat and escape the criminality, but it's just all in your face. It's all baked in. It's something that can't be bled out, and all set to amazing scenery with amazing food in the background. So, and then sort of some other things that I think of when I think of Italy is obviously who doesn't think of Venice and a city with water running through it and gondolas. Yeah, this again, just totally extreme, right? Oh, we started to flood a little bit. Well, let's just embrace it and build a city where the streets are water. That sounds like a good idea. We're Italy, damn it. That's what Italy is. Just embracing being its crazy self, and sometimes it makes things more difficult, but as an outside observer, it's really cool to watch. Um, so yeah, those are some things I think about when I think of Italian culture. Let's see. I also think of, let's see, I said Cervenko, and I also think of course, when you think of Italian politics, you think of the craziness of Machiavelli, right? And sort of the interplay of all these city states, whereas, other places, and city states are not a unique thing to Italy. At the time, lots of places were city states, but the opulence and the money being thrown around by these little city states, it's just crazy. And then, of course, we also think of Da Vinci, right? A great inventor, but perhaps too far ahead of its time, too just an absurd level of, again, just every Italian that ends up becoming famous, it seems like to me, is you never see like I don't know, like a moderate Italian becoming famous. It's always somebody who's just all of it in one. Just crazy smart, got crazy problems, just just so exploding with a eyeballs glued to me. It's just, or Michelangelo. Just the Sistine Chapel, stuff like that. It's just so, Italy is just so, I don't know how to describe it. It's just so extreme. And as a geographer who's drawn to see the different cultures in the world, that's what draws me in. That's what I get excited about. I don't get excited about a very medium culture. I get excited about a culture that's just exploding with culture. It's just in your face all the time. And that's what I love about Italy. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments section. Tell me about some of the other things you think about when you think of Italian culture. And thanks.